and I'm thinking, I mean, Carl Jung would say it's something about embracing the symbolic life.
Right.
So with the ego porosity, when we view ourselves as not being entirely fixed, but to embrace more a sense of the organic self that's moldable, shapeable, and influenceable in many ways, then what you're describing is a transformative path. And the book is, about embodying a transformative path.
Hello, this is Kevin Pennell, and welcome to episode 174 of Toward a Better Life. Thanks for tuning in to the episode. And regardless of where you might find yourself in this world, our lives can flow with a natural rhythm, a natural flow of life to ultimately aim toward balance and harmony. And this is the timeless message of Toward a Better Life, going with the flow and the rhythm of life. That's also performed through implementing balance, harmony, compassion, and kindness. And all those woven into our lives personally, culturally, and spiritually. It all begins with each one of us as an individual. And I like to share those concepts of this podcast from around the world, seeking others of the same spirit, heart, and mind. Now, through application of many of the insights and teachings from the episode, we can become better souls, spirits, and true human beings that continue to journey toward wholeness and harmony, not only for ourselves, but for the generations to come. I also offer the opportunity for you to share your prose, your music, your poetry, your storytelling on the show, and thanks to each and every one of you who have contributed to the program. Thanks ever so much again. Please subscribe to Toward a Better Life if you haven't done so already through your favorite podcast platform, and keep following for weekly magical insights to earth-based spirituality, self-development, and self-care. Also, remember to support the program by leaving a review of an Apple and Spotify podcast. And speaking of support, ad-free episodes are now available of Toward a Better Life through Patreon. Now, as a paid subscriber, you can enjoy the episodes without advertisements. All you need to do is visit Patreon, search for Toward a Better Life podcast, and then once you're there, you'll see an option to subscribe. Not only will you be able to listen ad-free, but there are discounts available for subscribers for online services that I offer, classes, and so much more to come. And there are 3 tiers of membership. Now, in appreciation of your support on Patreon, I have given equal benefits for all the levels. The tier you choose depends on what you want and can afford to donate. Every tier will go toward helping me continue my podcasts, classes, workshops, and writing. Thanks ever so much for your kind support. Do sign up today. Also, visit my website, towardabetterlife.com, where you can contact me to learn more about a free discovery call to help you on your journey, along with some prior episodes, learning opportunities, and services that I offer outside the podcast, plus a few accessories to assist you on your journey. Contact me through my website or send inquiries to kevin@towardabetterlife.com. Now, this episode encourages us to pause, breathe, or take a moment to reflect on simple truths that can be profound, coupled with opportunities to learn and how to apply spiritual truths into our lives. Celtic myths and stories have guided the listener to understand enlightened truths for centuries. And a couple of weeks ago, Dave the Bard shared his insights from the 4th branch of the Mabinogi. Then we looked at some very unique perspectives of tarot with Steve Hounsome. Then last week, we heard from Heather Green talking about Mystic South with the opportunities to learn about pagan, witch, and Druid crafts. Now, there's so much available to learn from these vast yet simple practices through the telling of stories, hearing myths, working with tarot, yet one factor remains to make it real and even tangible, and that is to embody these activities into our daily life. Now, I spoke with Michael Wilson last year about his latest book, Portals into Deep Imagination, Celtic Mythology, Nature's Year, and the Quest for the Soul. Now, I asked Michael to join me again on the podcast so we could explore and revisit how we can embody some of these spiritual matters into our daily lives. To reintroduce Michael, he is a psychotherapist with an extensive background in psychotherapy, transpersonal psychology or spiritual psychology, and environmental psychology, as in nature connections. Michael lives and works in Northumberland, incorporating regular visits to the Scottish Highlands and the islands for long nature immersions. He has written several additional excellent books on psychology as well. So join Michael Wilson and I as we explore spiritual matters of the natural world and how we can weave them practically into our lives. So settle in, won't you, to learn more about how to embody your spiritual path. Please welcome Michael Wilson to this episode of Toward a Better Life. I'm so happy to welcome back Mike Wilson to our program today. Mike, just for those that have never heard you before, perhaps, where are you and how are you?
Good to meet you again, Kevin. I am well, and I'm in the northeast of England, northeast part of England, not far from the holy island of Lindisfarne, which is an ancient Christian Celtic settlement, just on the Scottish-English border.
Okay. And why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about Mike? Because I know we know and we met each other through OBOD
Yes.
and the Hearth, and it's been a delightful experience. But tell us a little bit about Mike and what he's done. You've had quite an interesting past in a very good and positive way.
Thank you. I'm a psychotherapist. I'm a depth psychologist. Um, I taught psychology for many years in a university and in other institutions in Scotland and in England. Um, and I write. And my most recent publication, as you know, is called Portals into Deep Imagination.
And that's a book that I think is either just before or just after our last chat that I went ahead and I bought, and we humorously just mentioned that
Mm,
in the original recording that we did, gosh, it's been a while. We
mm,
had mentioned about try to go to your local bookshops and support local bookshops and that sort of thing. And I said, oh
mm,
yeah, that's
mm,
a great idea. I love that. Being a writer also, and just
mm,
support that. And
mm,
lo and behold, because of convenience, I got a Kindle version.
mm.
And I was
So
just
did I.
sharing
So did I.
that I couldn't stand it, and not the book.
You know.
I couldn't stand not holding something in my hands. So yesterday, I actually ordered the full copy, and
Mm,
and Mike, I truly want to say, after I've been in this book now for weeks and months, I have to say that if anyone is looking for something that will help them on their journey toward Celtic mythology and just living,
mm,
your book just really helps on so many different levels, and it points out that. But and again, it's portals into deep imagination, Celtic mythology, and so forth. But it's a phenomenal work, and it's readable in the sense that it's set up in a week fashion, and typically you can start around Samhain, and I'm going to let you take it from there, I think, because it's your book, not mine. But I can just tell you, everyone, that it is well worth whatever you get for this or whatever
mm.
you pay for this, because it helps to change your life. So. Um,
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm on week. We were joking too that I think I'm on week 18. Yeah, and you're on week 17. I'm ahead
On
of
week
you.
17. And it's an interesting one, this, because I did think about when ordering the weeks through the year in my diary. I thought, well, is this week 17 or week 18? Um, in a way, I think because of the 8 sections of the book, passing through each of the 8 Celtic festivals, followed by 6 or 7 weeks per festival, if you like. Um, I thought, well, it depends whether you want the festival at you want to begin the reading week at the beginning or the end of the festival.
Hmm.
Um, this makes sense to people who've got the book. They can flick through and they go, actually, I think I'll fine tune my reading so it coincides exactly with the start of the festival. Um, and that's what I did this time.
Hmm.
But I know there will be parts of the book where the festival's already either behind me or in front of me by another week.
Yeah.
But essentially, to answer your question there, Kevin, it's a book about enchantment, I
Hmm.
think. Um, it's a book about enchantment. So where the psychology in Celtic um, spirituality, if you like, or Celtic mythology and folklore come together in order to create a pathway for meaning making through the year, beginning with the darkest month of the year, where we go on an inward journey, and then coming out of the darkness into the light, um, and continuing around the year with practices every week to embody the the writing, the learning, if you like, the learning from each of the weeks.
And I know that when I bought my copy and we talked about this the last time, it's nice if you can kind of trace it out and see where you start. And
Mm.
I may have started um, around, I'm going to say the summer solstice, as I seem to recall.
Mhm.
And I picked it up then, and I read through some of it, and dare I say it, it went along the wayside for a minute. But then I said, I know what I want to do is I want to begin there in that time of Samhain, because it's it is a time to reflect um, and go within. So that's what I've done, and
Mhm.
it really does guide you well. So I have typically been reading it, and people do whatever you wish. I'm not trying to be dogmatic about it by any means, shape, or form. I did all the dogma I wanted for the years that I did.
Mhm.
And and I said goodbye to it when I really started following a more natural path.
Mhm.
And that said, typically what I've done is I try to read my week, uh, usually anytime from Sunday to Wednesday. And that way I kind of pattern my day and pattern the rest of my week in accord to what I've read. And what I'm referring to is that you have practices that are listed at the end of each one. So we've had the opportunity to read and just really muse over what you've got written there. But then we put it into practical use, and that to me is so significant. It's one of the things that I recall from moving from the first grade, the Bard grade into the Ovate grade, is that we want to talk about the different rituals that we do and how are they meaningful. And it's really interesting when you really look at the different rituals that are done where you're able to actually put into practice what you have read. And that's the magic. We can get all heady, and we can go into philosophy and everything else and discuss stuff and really do a lot of left-brained work. But the real magic comes when we turn it off and we turn toward the right brain. And it's interesting that this this week, this week's reading is on something very significant for myself because I've been working on writing again and moving more toward writing, and that it's that bardic spirit within me. And I find it fascinating that the very thing that you're talking about in week 18 is inspiration.
Mm.
And that is significant. I'm going to read something here that says, um, one thing that's very interesting to me, aside from this, from the inspiration point, was you wrote about ego, and you said that because ego is not a structure, but a process, a relatively stable part of consciousness, it is not difficult to create, and I love this term, ego porosity. Is that your term, or is that something
That,
that you saw somewhere?
that's the term that just came to me. I'm sure
Ah,
it's been used by other people, but it's a term that just came to me um, to describe how that very porous part of ourselves has an inherent flexibility about it um, that moves us away from viewing our core sense of identity as being fixed
mm,
and allows there to be a porosity like a sponge
mm,
or like water,
mm,
something much greater can pass through
mm.
and become part of
Okay.
who we are.
And you were toward the end of that same section we're talking, it says that uh, we may wonder whether the uh, and is it Kalik?
Hmm.
I got it right. My goodness.
Got it right.
Kalik despairs at what has become of her earth body, or whether Cernunnos has grown new antlers in the forest which he protects, or if the
Mm.
triple mother goddess is preparing for another transformation. These established gods live alongside new deities with new faces and forceful messages for our time. They know the ancient pathways to reach us are in processes and practices that demonstrate and cultivate ego porosity.
Mm.
And it is so magical to me, and it really brings it into a good focus. And I like to use the term a lot of times, it puts shoe leather on the words, that you practice this porosity within your own life and you open yourself up to the possibilities. And how often I love the term with, yeah, with the similarity, of course, and the synonymous term of porosity with a sponge. And
Hmm.
I've said so much about um, when I've had opportunities to teach younger people, and I'm saying like all the way back to kindergarten up through maybe the third, fourth, or fifth grade, probably cut off around the third or fourth, because the magic starts to go away and the other stuff tends to start to creep in. But in the midst of all of that and the younger ages, I like to say that these children are like sponges for knowledge. And
Hmm.
it lends me the thought of whether or not I can take up that same magic. And I just mentioned this recently, this same magic in my own life, that I still, that child, Kevin, that child is still in me.
Hmm.
He's
Mm.
not left. And I need to let him come forth every now and again. Not the spoiled brat, but the sponge who wants to learn, and the sponge who looks down at a leaf and leans over to pick it up, and maybe even really look at it closely and say, where have you come from? And I can tell, what leaf you are, what tree you are, but what adventures have you seen, and what have you felt as the wind has caressed you when you were on the tree? And then what was it like coming down to the earth, and what will it be like when you
Mm.
become part of the earth once again and basically nourish the land? It's just, that's magic to me, and to not lose that childlike curiosity of what makes us do that. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on this. And I'm thinking, I mean, Carl Jung would say it's something about embracing the symbolic life.
Right.
So with the ego porosity, when we view ourselves as not being entirely fixed, but we but to embrace more a sense of the organic self that's
Hmm.
moldable, shapeable, and influenceable in many ways. Um, then what you're describing is a transformative path, and the book is, about embodying a transformative path. Now, let me give you an example, if I may, here, Kevin. That you said you dipped into the book. You began around about the summer solstice.
Mm.
It's when I also um, began rereading the work in its book form, um, and I took the theme of the summer solstice into a forest with a group.
Hmm.
And we were reflecting on the themes of transition, on summer solstice, Celtic ritual, and reflecting on the god Tyrannus, the god of thunder and lightning.
Hmm.
And um, and then this next thing happened, and this is absolutely true. This really happened. Um, it didn't happen in the setting, in the woods, in the forest, but it happened that evening, that night. Um, I was thinking then again about Tyrannus, the god of thunder, the god of lightning. And that night there was a thunderstorm, and I was lying in bed, um, and maybe about 2 o'clock in the morning, I felt my body becoming extremely hot, and it woke me up. And then I realized that the electric blanket that was that was under under the layers of the bed clothing had switched itself on by the mains power and dialed itself up to the fullest temperature. So it felt as if Tyrannus was in the room. The god of lightning, the god of thunder was in the room. And it was such a moment for me. It's sort of it was such a moment of, my goodness, the gods are alive.
Hmm.
Um, and then I promptly removed the electric blanket from the bed and have never returned it since.
You didn't need that kind of electrifying experience in the middle of the night.
Exactly. But it was quite alarming, I tell you. And talking about the symbolic life, it was the symbolic life plus some.
Okay.
Suddenly the mythology came alive. From the gathering of a small group of people in the middle of a forest reflecting on these themes, it's as if we evoked something of an ancient deity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's spot on. And
Mm.
and that just kind of leads into another paragraph and reading it. And that was thinking metaphorically and symbolically is the language which keeps us open to communication from mystery in whatever forms they take, be it electric blanket or otherwise. But we are aware this is not the familiar cognitive thinking. It is bodily felt thinking. This is
Mm.
to think that our felt sense, as if we were to drop our awareness down into our body and to replace regular thinking with perceiving with feeling. This is the
Mm.
territory of embodied spirituality, and
Mm.
that's really magical. You've
Mm.
mentioned, I like the word that you use often throughout the book is mystery and other world.
Mm.
In And I think it was in this section that you had mentioned about one of the things you want to look for when we're doing this type of work, whether I'm sitting down at my word processor and writing a book, or whether I'm creating something, a recipe. I don't know,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
you allow the things to flow, and then
Hmm.
the magic really does come forth. And the magic tends to come forth, and this is the part that I was seeing often in this chapter. Most of the magic, most of the mystery comes forth when you're not looking for it.
Mm.
It just
Yeah.
happens. And the electric blanket experience, that's a you really were brought home, and you really got a taste and a real sense of the God.
Mm.
and
That's for
and and
sure.
and when people say, oh, that's just, I don't know about all these different gods and everything and the animism that you folks believe in, I said, well, that's okay. You don't have to believe it. All I know is if I've experienced it, and I can
That's it.
see where they're very much alive.
That's it. That's exactly it. And the book is, I think, about the path of experience. It's got the words, it's got the reflection, it's got the meditation, but then the practice. I think for me, it's all about the practice, the
Yes.
path of experience. Can you experience this? Here are some suggestions that may help you experience the very thing that I'm writing about.
Hmm. That's where the words tend to flow the most too.
Mm,
When I have written a lot, and it just seems to really flow with me through
mhm,
that inspiration, it still flows for me the best. I just recently discovered from 5 in the morning until 7 in the morning.
okay. Mhm,
Why? I can't explain it. But I've learned through the years that I can write pretty much any time of day. But the real inspiration, using that word, tends to
mhm,
be in the early morning when my mind
mhm,
and my spirit are fresh.
mhm,
And maybe some of the information that comes to me is influenced by maybe my dream time. And I
mm.
know Carl Jung has talked a lot about the effectiveness of dreaming, and that was, of course, I don't want to go down that road, but it seems to be the contention between he and Freud was how to look at
One of them.
dreams.
One of them. That's
One
right.
of them. But
Yeah.
it's really magical, Michael, when I do that work, and I just did it the other day, and I just got up and I've begun to do some solo times on the podcast,
Mm,
and I got up that morning and everything just flowed. And in writing, a lot of people will say, well, if you really want to be a writer, get up and write 300 words a day. Just make it a goal. Just write 300
mhm,
words a day.
mhm, mhm.
And in a little less than an hour, I wrote over 1,000
Wow.
because
That's a real
it
flow,
just,
a flow. You're in a
it just,
flow. You're in a
and,
flow.
and you wonder about the terminology such as automatic writing.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
you say, well, geez, were the spirits in control of me, or what? And
Or
I
channeling.
there you go. Yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
mm,
You're channeling the wisdom that's out there, and then you're putting it through your own words, and that is a synthesis beyond the imagination. When
it
we
is, isn't it?
Yeah,
Mm,
we realize we connect with all those spirits, and I'll say all those gods, because we don't know which one's necessarily coming through. And frankly, it doesn't matter to me because I'm still going to acknowledge them at the end of the day. And the other thing that I found when you're talking about putting some of this information into practice, um, I have begun to light a candle when I'm doing podcasting. I have
mhm,
begun to light a candle when I'm writing.
mm,
And to
mm,
me, it's that old thing of acknowledging the spirit that's in the space. And they recognize that. So,
mm. No, it's lovely hearing your words describe the process that you find yourself in those early hours of the morning. Um, I think maybe in the week that you're reading, um, I make a reference to William Wordsworth and his idea and his practice as a writer, a poet writer, where he would think very hard about something. And then after a while, he would let it go and give it to, we might say now, the unconscious to take over and begin to shape and mold it and offer a type of response to the conscious effort. So to let it go and allow intuition to do the work. And that's how, with this particular project, I've worked. I would be in the middle of the night, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. A dream would come, and the dream would suggest what I need to be writing next. Um, and that's how it works for me. Maybe we're all different. I guess we are all different in terms of how intuition finds its way into the conscious mind. Um, for me, dreams is the key for me because it's unfiltered. I'm not suggesting anything. It's simply coming to me
Hmm.
as a type of offering. Mm.
I'm just looking up the section that we're talking about because I remember you referred to Wordsworth quite a bit, and there I thought there were some words that you had in a quotation from him, and I'm trying to find it, and I'm just
Yeah.
having a moment here looking for it. But it's it the inspiration that we experience, and it doesn't matter really what time of day. And it's not always the case where, geez, the only time that I really feel inspired is first thing in the morning. And it's just
Hmm.
that when we allow that to flow, wonders really do take place, and that can happen anytime. Uh, I think we
Yeah,
just have to be in that space of,
we do.
I'm going to say, acceptance of an
That's right.
acknowledgement.
I agree. And I've just found the words here. Uh, so William Wordsworth observes as that we somehow the creative process, he's writing about the creative process, requires both effort, which, and this is the quotation, very brief, aspires, grasps, struggles, wishes, and craves,
Hmm.
and stillness, which fits him to receive it when unsought. So that sort of two-sidedness of the creative process that requires a lot of struggle and effort and wrestling with the ideas, and then let it go, let it go. So something unsought can step forward,
It goes back to that not looking for it. Let it
not
present
looking for
itself
it.
to you. Because because
Exactly. Yeah.
because all we have done is we've put the energy out there.
Mm, mm,
We've put the sincere effort out there.
mm, mm, mm,
And we may not get the answer like that.
mm,
But
mm.
interestingly enough, I had a lovely chat with Steve Houseman,
Oh,
and
yeah.
we were talking
Mm,
about the tarot. and
yeah.
and it's an interesting process in that as well, and it still goes back to the same thing. Don't look for it,
Mm,
just let it flow. And I did a spread for myself. I don't want to go off on that, but I did a spread for myself because I've got some stuff going on, and I just want to see, okay, so what direction do I need to go? And
mm,
if you look at the way this spread works, you put the cards out in a certain way. You know the thing, and
mm,
and it just really, it didn't congeal like I wanted it to,
mhm,
you
mhm,
know,
mhm,
or what I expected it to be.
mhm,
And so I took Hauselman's advice that he wrote in his book,
mhm, mhm,
and I
mhm,
remembered even some of the times I've even talked with people the same way about
mhm,
when I have done counseling in the past, is said best thing you can do when you don't have an answer is let it go. And that is a big deal.
That's
because
it.
our nature is, I don't want to let it go.
That's right.
But if we really want to get the inspiration, if we really want to get the key thoughts, if we really want to get the vitality out of the whole process, let it be. Let it go. Just let it go and wait. And you know what happened, Mike? The
Go
next
on.
day I got it.
Mm. You
And
got it.
it
Yeah.
was just and there's a perfect example about inspiration can hit you anytime. I just
Hmm.
basically
Hmm.
preached on the importance of 5 to 7 in the morning for me, and you shared about 1 and 2 o'clock. This actually
Hmm.
happened in the middle of the day. Bam. And it
Hmm.
just struck me. I said, I never saw that. And it was perfect because I wasn't looking for it, but I had put the energy out there.
And I guess so many ideas or thoughts or inspirations arise in this precise way
Yeah.
when we let go of something. We allow the ego to be as porous as it really is, to allow something to flow through it and in it.
And the ego porosity, going back to that for the longest
Mm,
time, I think one of the reasons why it was unique to me when I read it
mm,
was I've often said, and folks have heard me say it, that the only job of the ego in this body is to keep me from walking out in front of a freight train. Its
that's right.
job is to
Mm,
protect the body.
mm,
But if I really want, now I'm seeing another level of it, thanks to you.
mm,
I'm seeing another level of it is to open it up, allow the porosity to come through. And
mm,
it's interesting, Mike, because I think it almost like used to be when I was earlier in a lot of the spiritual path, I found that there was a virtual battle going on between the ego and the spirit. And I had talked about before about how as we grow, that ego really takes the place of spirit and it,
mm,
it it overshadows it. So it wants to experience the physical. It wants to experience all this stuff. And then in comes the concepts that you're sharing, as well as the sharing of Druidry in and of itself,
mm.
that it's an experiential thing. And when the experience comes in hand with the ego, the new experience is beyond words. And that comes into the mystery and it comes into another word that you've used quite a bit, and Stephen has used it, others have used it, but that's otherworld. And in shamanic
Otherworld.
studies, I would not have used that term, but it really is very, very good because it's the other world. It's the air. It's beside us. It's part of us, but
Mm.
the ego porosity allows it to come in.
That's right. And this concept of the other world is also very Celtic. It's the language that the ancients used, or it's the language that the writers of the tales and stories used to describe the in-between world. We could say the dream world, the in-between world, the underworld, um, the world of mystery, the world of enchantment, of magic. And the underworld, the other world, is used in many of the tales and stories of the ancient Celts, especially the Welsh and Irish traditions, but also the Scottish too, where time takes on a different meaning,
Hmm.
where 5 minutes there is 300 years here,
Mm-hmm.
where time intersects with the time of ordinary consciousness. Um, I find it endlessly fascinating, this whole idea of the Celtic world, of little we know of it. And I guess most of it's imagined.
Mm.
And most of it is comes to us through tales and stories. But there's also an archaeological and historical root to nearly every single thing.
And when you say it's imagined, it's sometimes I believe it's coming in through our DNA. It is
Hmm.
stuff that has been in this body, in this spirit, in this soul, I'll say,
Hmm.
for thousands of years. And every
Hmm.
now and then you get these little glimpses come through, and
Hmm.
it solidifies everything. It helps me maintain another favorite for mine of late is connection. It helps me
Yeah,
connect better with the natural world. It helps me even
yeah.
connect with the people that I love, the people that I care for.
Mm, mm,
It deepens. Side note question I've got: do you suppose that we would, when I've done shamanic work before and talk about shamanic states of consciousness, when I
mm-hmm,
go into a very deep meditation,
mm-hmm.
and do you suppose that when we talk about the shamanic state of consciousness, that's the same thing really as otherworld, is it not?
I think it's exactly the same thing, just a different language.
Yeah, yeah.
And the ways to create that ego porosity are there in shamanic practice through the repetitive beating of the single frame drum.
Hmm.
Takes us into that same mind state um, where uh, there's an opening of a door into another way of perceiving things. I think, but we are not we don't open the door. The the door somehow opens us.
Huh.
It's not as if we're making the effort. We're only quieting the ego.
Ah,
That's what we're doing with the repetitive drumming. We're quieting the ego, distracting the ego. We're creating a type of trance state
right.
so that some other way of seeing, of knowing, of real knowing, real deep knowing, uh, can make itself present. That's how I see it.
Do you think the drumming is is significant in the sense that I think that's what you just said. It's significant in the sense that it connects us with that, and it detracts us away from the other stuff that's in my
Mm,
head, for an example. I mean, how often, Mike, have we and even people we talked with, they say, well, I can't meditate because I've got monkey mind,
hmm.
because I've got so much stuff in my mind. And my normal thing is I say, well, if you do nothing else, just breathe and take a proper breath. Take some do the square breathing that we're familiar with,
Hmm.
and that can also help if I don't have a drum. But the drum seems to sometimes take it deeper, don't you think?
It definitely does. For me, at least, it does. Um, and it's something about the repetitive rhythm of the drum. If one reads the research into this, as I have, the effects, the psychological effects of the drumming rhythm, it does alter one's state of consciousness. There's no doubt about that. And if you're drumming in a group, the same thing happens, perhaps more intensely so. Um, but there is something when we're tuned to the drum, we're not simply beating a drum for the sake of beating a drum, but we're attuned to the drum. We're allowing the rhythm of the drum to guide the way.
Mm-hmm. It entrains us into the moment.
It does. And there's a ritual to it. We bring ritual and ceremony to something, then we make it sacred, or
Yeah.
rather, we enter into a sacred space.
Yeah.
And I think that's all part of it. In the book, talk a lot about ritual and ceremony, and all the practices are in some ways a type of ritual engagement with something. Um, it's how we pass from one state of awareness to another.
Yeah.
through the gate of ritual, through the practice of ritual. And ritual could be something so simple as light the candle.
I looked at the practice and what we do to do some ritual, and we can get very, very involved in a lot of the details of different rituals that we do, whether it's
Mhm, mhm,
for honoring one of the parts of the eightfold year or what.
mhm,
But
mhm,
sometimes it can be as simple as just drawing a circle within and beginning in the east and ending in the east and bringing everything together and allowing the peace that surrounds us to envelop us and embrace us. And then in the midst of all of that, either before or after, we will have lit a candle. And it just seems to bring everything together. It culminates and it just makes it happen. But what you're saying too, what I'm hearing is it's okay to keep it very simple in
mhm,
just being in that space. In heart math, for an example, they talk about just stop doing what you're
mhm.
doing when you're really frustrated on something. Just
Yeah,
stop.
yeah,
We don't
that's
have
it.
to go find a candle. We don't have to bring in the four directions. We don't
Mhm,
have to
mhm,
make sure that
mhm.
our feet are bare and we're walking in grass. No, you can just stop. Just stop doing what you're doing. Take some breaths and just go in with that. When you get into the practical aspects and the practices, I'll say, at the end of each one of these chapters, it is so helpful just to do the simple things. Let's
Mhm.
see, what do we have? Well, actually, you were on 17. Can you give us an example of what we're talking
I'm
about?
on week 17. That's correct.
Yeah. So the practice uh, looks like meditating on the questions, what is openness and what is trust, focusing on
Mm, mm,
only
mm,
one question per sitting. And
mm,
during your meditations, return to the question as an object of focus as you might with your breath and other meditative practices. So it's
mm.
very using it. Can you use the word to describe the word? I can, as far as I'm concerned, but the practical side of the practice is what you've just done.
That's
And
right.
just learn you can meditate anywhere, anytime.
You can. You can. And I think there is something there about authenticity. It's about what feels right for the person, and we're all different. Um, and some people need more ritual, people need less, some people need more meditation, other people need less. But there's something about what feels authentic in the moment.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's it, what feels authentic in the moment. And that is embodied spiritual practice when
Yeah.
it feels authentic. We don't need to read the script.
We don't?
We don't need to read the script. We don't need to read the ritual that's been written there for us by some wonderful creative team of, um, of people. At least we don't need to use that as the only template or only way in to the mystery, into
Hmm.
meeting the mystery. Often, for me at least, it's about what feels authentic in the moment.
Yeah.
Many times, dozens of times, tens of dozens of times, I've had the rituals sitting on my desk written out. And we're talking about the Druid rituals here, and I do
Right.
love the Druid rituals. And
Mhm.
I participated in many over the years, including at Stonehenge and at other places, including Orkney, um, at the Ring of Brogda there. And sometimes the ritual is a wonderful thing when there's a whole group of people, we're all doing the same thing together. But at other times, I've sat with the ritual ready to step into the natural world to enact it. And I've stopped myself thinking, actually, today, I'm going to do something very different. I'm going to include light, fire, like a candle. I'm going to include air, incense, and I'm going to include water.
Mm.
Um, and earth, but then I'm going to make it up as I go along.
Mm.
No, I'm going to create something unique.
Yeah. And I think you touched on a concept that's very similar to that. Maybe it was this chapter or maybe it was another chapter, but did I read in there someplace that if we begin to talk about, I'll say, the gods and whether or not they have changed in such a way as to adapt to the world that we're experiencing now as opposed to what we would have experienced 1,000 years ago, so that they would
Mm.
adapt the methods that we would use, and practicality. There's my candle, and
Lovely.
and it's just a matter of saying, okay, I can light this candle. I don't need to have a fire because it's still spirit. It's still connecting. And whether or
Mm.
not, when you're talking about the god of thunder earlier,
Mm.
and whether or not he is presenting himself any differently to you. He obviously did, because we didn't have electric blankets 1,000 years ago. So he says, I know a way I'm going to make this guy connect.
Exactly.
So it's sometimes these subtle little simple things, don't miss them. And it goes back to the childlike wonder. Don't
Mm.
miss the little things. I was out the other day working on my car. Yay.
Mhm.
And my dear friend, the hawk, flew over and was just very, very excited about something. And I even, I do, people will ask, well, what does the medicine of the hawk mean? I said, well, the very simple thing to do is ask. Ask the hawk, what can I do for you, and why are you here? And the vernacular, Mike. You just go with the
Mhm.
flow and find out what's going on. Ask them what is going on. But they work with us within our parameters, and it doesn't matter. Isn't that amazing that I don't have to reach back and find a sword from the third century in order to open a ceremony?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's about the conversation we have and about the openness to the double meanings of things. So the hawk is, of course, a wonderful bird, but also the hawk may also be a bringer of a message.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's one of the theories that I remember. That's one of the things that's talked about is it's the hawk is the message giver. And
Mm, mm,
and I
mm,
find
mm,
it interesting that the significance of the hawk within Druidry.
mm.
And I said, well, that
Indeed,
that just kind of brings it all together, doesn't it?
it does. And the whole of nature, I think, is has its it doesn't need us, of course. But sometimes when we're imagining, because I think quite often it's about when we disappear in some way into a type of reverie and into a type of daydream when we're walking out in the natural world, then things come to us as if they're a message for us. But of course, the bird is only doing what it normally does. But at another level, the level of spirituality, there can be some other meaning in there too.
And I think it's significant in that, um, when we look at these and we consider the involvement that we would have with the natural world and how important it really is. I would even challenge people, if they have not done it before, maybe once a week, uh, spend 15 minutes or more in direct contact with the natural world. And
Hmm.
and that can, if you're in a city, and all you have is a window box with flowers in it, you can connect with the natural world right there. You don't have to go to the woods. You can. We're in a very unique situation where we are. I can walk out my door, and my grove is 20, 30 feet from my side door of my house, and it's great. I don't have to go into that sacred circle. I can go anywhere. I can go, for a walk with the
Mhm.
dog. I can, you know, we're out and about doing our thing, so to speak. But it is that connection and so important that it might be to
Mm.
connect with the natural world because that's where our connection with the other world begins, and that's where the mysteries really do unfold, like you said with the group that you're with lightning.
Exactly.
And you're
And
going to be
also, I
doing.
think,
Go ahead.
go on. I'm about to say, if we don't connect, then we lose responsibility.
Hmm.
I mean, it sounds a bit sort of activist for me to say that. Not that I'm concerned about it, overly concerned about that, because I am a sort of a quiet activist also for the natural world. But if we lose connection, we lose responsibility.
Yeah.
It's a bit like a friendship or a relationship. If we're not connected to that person, then they don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
They don't matter.
When we have a dear friend and that dear friend is feeling off and they may talk that they've broken something in an accident or they're just feeling weary for the day or whatever, and there's somebody very close to us and they reach out to us and we would acknowledge. I would Something I often would say is I'm going to send you some good energy and some loving thoughts, and I mean that. I'm going to do that, and I believe I can do that, thousands of miles. There is no time or space in the spiritual world. And I might do that because why, Mike? Because I know them and I have that connection with them. I would do that for you. But at the same token,
Mhm.
when we think about we're surrounded by a natural world that is, in some regards, is suffering.
Yeah,
And
in a
how
big
often
way, I
do
would suggest. Mm.
Yeah, and how often do we send out the loving energy, compassionate thought that we have to the natural world because it's around us all the time. It is a
Mhm.
dear friend of ours. It is part of who we are. We're not and I've said it before, we're not apart from it, we're a part of it. You know,
Mm.
we do not laud over the natural world. We are a part of the natural world, and we have a responsibility. I'm reminded of something again on the hearth recently. One of our Ovates, we call each other Ovates, as you know, but I'm saying that for the rest of the listeners. Um, but they had mentioned something that's taking place in the Pacific Northwest, and I don't want to go political, but they said something about the fact that there are apparently, I'm not sure if it's hundreds or if it's thousands of acres that has the potential of being clear cut or forested, and they're wiping out a bunch of old growth trees in the process. And again, avoiding the aspects of the political ramifications or finances or what have you of the world that we live in today. That person in the hearth says, just go to the site and read about it and see what it's about, and then respond accordingly. And I've been on the West Coast and I have seen the giant redwoods. I've seen the giant sequoias, but I have not been to the area they're talking about. So what do I do with that, Mike? Do I just say, well, it's really not a part of who I am and I don't know if I can really do anything? And it's that quiet activist that sparked and said, why not?
Exactly. Why not?
So I wrote up a thing and I sent it off to we in the States we have the Bureau of Land Management, BLM, and I
Okay.
wrote it off to them saying, there are some definite reasons why you need to reconsider that. But that's what we in Druidry do. We try to That's one of the heralds that we have is we want to protect the world, protect the natural world around us.
Yes, Druids are guardians of the
Mm,
natural world, aren't we? And as are many other people, tens and thousands of other people are too, without a spiritual path, and some with and some without. Um, but we have to, um, I think, protect the natural world. And the way I see it, is that the state of the natural world is the state of the human mind.
mm,
that we've allowed the natural world to get to where it is in some way the state of the human mind, um, and our capacity to relate to life in all its aspects, all its forms. Um, that's how I see this. Now, the climate change and breakdown that we're in now, that's how I see it. It's a breakdown in relationship.
It is.
It is a breakdown in relationship. Yeah.
And I think I'm going to go back to your book, that the book helps to reestablish that relationship. And I'm going to
Yeah.
say even make it stronger, because
Mm,
I would think that I have a comfortable relationship with the natural world, comfortable in the sense that I feel my connection and it feels like a living relative because
mm,
it is. And yet, um, the book impressed me more
mm,
and starts to help me see it a little differently. You mentioned early on, and our time is slipping like crazy, but you mentioned earlier before we began recording that you had set up at one point about doing the practices almost on a 3-year process,
mm,
and that you're revisiting it. And to me, it's almost a case too where I'm looking forward to when I get back in completing my circle and coming back to the summer solstice once again because I will have been rereading it. And he goes back and saying, "So what can I learn this time that I didn't see the last time?
mm.
What can I practice this time that I didn't practice the last time?" And that's what your book really does help people with, is
Mm,
to
mm.
validate that connection that they have not only with the natural world, but their own relationship with the natural world and their own relationship with themselves.
Exactly. And which is why I would also say to readers, it's likely you will come up with a practice that's more fitting for you than the ones I've written.
Mm,
I wrote these practices for myself,
mm,
initially. So it's to either use the practices or um, find something in the material of that week that will spark an idea of a practice that would best suit you,
hmm
I think, so you embody the path um, uh, that is uniquely yours.
Yeah. And I think what you've just done is you've just summed up the podcast. that's, that's a wonderful place to leave it, I think.
Mm,
Just use it and customize it to your own needs and what works for you. Maybe you want to use a single candle. Maybe you do want to start a fire, but it whatever works for you at a given point in time to make it
mm,
yours and embrace it as yours, own it
mhm.
as yours. And your book is a guide to help
Mm.
us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other thought that you want to share with our listeners this time? Like the last time, Mike has just flown.
Well, there are so many thoughts. There are so many thoughts. But this what I found myself doing now is that with the book, I developed a set of cards to go with the book,
Hmm.
one for each week, 52 cards. Um, and I've only developed one set of cards, and I'm using them for myself for the next year or so in order to see whether there's anything in that. But I will shuffle cards, take a card, as we would with any other type of card deck. Or I might open the book. Well, I might center myself, maybe ask a question, and then open the book at any page.
Yeah.
So we can play with the book. We don't have to go through it in a linear way. We can go engage with it in any way we like. There will
Yeah.
always be something.
See, there's another good reason why I want to have the physical book and not a Kindle version. The
I
Kindle
know
keeps
what you
wanting to
mean.
take me back where I was, and I said, I want to go someplace.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Well, Michael, this has been just enchanting once again. It's such a
Thank
pleasure
you.
to talk with you, and it to me it's just a wonderful experience just to sit with a friend and just to chat about spiritual matters and matters of the natural world, and it's just beautiful. So thanks ever so much, Michael, for being a
Well,
part of
Kevin, thank
us.
you so much for an
And
invite again.
and tell us again before we go how folks can get in touch with you, and the information will be in the show notes as well. But if they're trying to jot information down, first off, let's tell the title of the book again.
Yeah, it's Portals into Deep Imagination, Celtic Mythology, Nature's Year, and the Quest for Soul.
Mm-hmm.
And if people want to get in touch with me, details are on the book. Or they can Google me and they'll find me somehow.
Yeah,
Just
they
by
will.
Googling the title of the book. Google the title of the book, and it will arrive on my in my inbox.
Okay. That's great.
Yeah.
Michael, thanks again. Enjoy your pleasant day and enjoy your journey that I know you're going to be taking later today.
Yeah. Take care. Thank you once again. Bye-bye for now.
And that's our show for this week. I hope you enjoyed Michael Wilson with his practical insights to embody your own spiritual practices into your daily life. There are links in the show notes for connecting with Michael, his work, and his books. As always, I express my deep appreciation, my deepest gratitude to you, dear listener, for tuning in. Remember, if you are seeking insights and advice on how to create the better life for yourself, and if you'd like to, have some guidance for self-care, self-development, experience hypnotherapy, readings, distant shamanic work, Reiki, drop me a line, kevin@towardaBetterLife.com for your free discovery call, and we'll go from there. In that call, we'll be discussing some goals, set some plans for achieving them, and moving forward with your journey toward a better life. You can also visit my website, towardaBetterLife.com, for past episodes, blog entries, ways to enhance your spiritual journey, along with some upcoming events. Please subscribe and follow to Toward a Better Life through your favorite podcast platform, and do leave a review on Apple, Spotify, Overcast, whatever podcast platform you might be using. And don't forget to check out Toward a Better Life on Patreon, where ad-free episodes are available for paid subscribers. And as that paid subscriber, you can enjoy episodes without advertisements, along with discounts for my services, classes, and workshops. All you need to do is visit Patreon and search for Toward a Better Life podcast. Always remember, if you'd like to share your story, music, prose, or if you want to be a guest, please contact me, Kevin@towardaBetterLife.com. Until next week, enjoy your practical journey toward a better life.